Last week's lesson was on listening. There were 3 parts. Number 1, listen and stop interrupting. Number 2 was doing more listening than talking. Remember, 2 ears and 1 mouth. And number 3, listen for pain points in order to help our patients in the end. The challenge was catching our minds when they drift during conversations and bringing yourself back to that conversation. Today's lesson, I want to build on that because obviously there's much more to conversations than just listening. So today's lesson is about acknowledgements. There are 2 reasons why we need to work on and enhance our skills at acknowledging. The first reason is helping our patients feel heard. There's a difference between us listening and someone feeling heard. Just because we are intently listening doesn't mean they again, feel heard. When a patient feels heard, they're more likely to hear us out. The second reason is to avoid the push-push confrontation or battle when a patient gives us an objection. I like Reese's story to explain the push-push confrontation with his bar fight analogy. While a fight usually starts with a push. One guy walks up to another and pushes him. The fight is escalated into a real fight with the second push. This is when the other guy responds with the push back. That's when the table's knocked over, the beer spilled, the punches are thrown. We do this in conversations all the time. When the patient pushes with an objection, when the patient pushes with some sort of question, or a statement, or even a sarcastic comment, what we tend to do is push back. And this only escalates the bar fight. In this push-push, this is push-push energy. So we want to practice acknowledging and pull them in with these acknowledgments. This can disarm them rather than push them. And at the same time, it can reduce sales resistance. As audiologists, as providers, as office managers, we know how to talk audiology. We know how to explain things. We know how to educate patients. The problem is when it comes across as pushing. They don't feel heard, then they tune us out and they stop the care. Again, when a patient feels heard, they're more likely to stop and they're more likely to hear us. Reese's favorite acknowledgement of all time, if anybody remember, it is, I can help with that. We should be using this phrase on every phone conversation with the first 5 to 10 minutes of every patient encounter. Let's put ourselves in the patient's shoes for a quick minute. We see all the positive hearing aids. We see all the good that we're doing, all the patients we're helping. Unfortunately, the patients don't see this. They only hear the negatives. They see the pricing, the high prices, the stories of hearing aids that don't work, and they come into our offices filled with anxiety, confusion, and sales resistance. Unfortunately, they bring a lot of baggage. And by using acknowledgments like, I can help with that, early on in every conversation can, number 1, help reduce anxiety and help pass over their authority to you. Now, Reese's number 1 acknowledgement of all time to avoid is, I understand. This is an awful acknowledgement because we are not in the other person's shoes. And it's almost impossible for us to really understand. We are not in their shoes and we have not gone through their experiences. So a good way to push someone away from us is to use the acknowledgement, I understand. Big no-no. Other acknowledgements we can immediately use to replace I understand is I appreciate that and I respect that. Now, I understand old habits die hard. It does take mindful awareness and practice. These are great acknowledgements for when encountering patient objections. Again, I appreciate that. I respect that. Over the next week, please practice new habits, listening, and the good use of acknowledgments. If anybody has any questions or want to sit and role play with me during my travels this week, stop me. I'll be more than happy to help you.